Before we start the session, just a little background on what our research center aims to do. Along with the Jindal School of Government and Public Policy's aim, the center strives to develop robust teaching programs as well as strong research collaborations, both at the national and international levels, in the cutting edge fields of three disciplines: complexity economics, applied spirituality, and public policy. The center was established in September 2020, and today we have the director of our center with us as well, Professor Singh. Professor Singh, can I please request you to come in and say a few words before we kickstart the session today?
Sure. Thanks, Poorva. And welcome to all of you who are attending today. I'm sure more participants will arrive soon. This is a student-led activity, of course, and so student and trip fellows. So I wouldn't take too much of your time. Just to say that this center is engaging at some leading edge issues, as Poorva has mentioned, but tackling real-world public policies at the same time. So we seek to get new insights into public policy challenges, real-world challenges such as complexity of public policy in areas like sustainable development, various aspects of sustainable development, but also issues related to poverty, inequality, the SDGs, which are as many of you know, the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the 2030 Agenda, and various elements related to that. Poorva herself is working on issues related to complexity and energy in urban settings, and looking at maybe at some other issues as well into how cities grow. So some very concrete, practical issues. Today as well, in addition to the complexity work, to illustrate what we are up to, we have a book launch of at 2:30 on the politics of being. So in this area, this work on applied spirituality, we are really asking some hard questions, such as, why is it that humanity is still on this trajectory of unsustainability in areas such as climate change, etc., and we don't seem to be able to change course? We have concluded that one of the important, if not the most important, missing dimension is a deeper understanding of us as individuals, who we truly are as human beings, and then bringing that deeper spiritual understanding to engage with the public policy conversations. So that's what this is all about, as Poorva was saying. And with that short welcome and introduction to the work of the center, let me turn it back to Poorva.
Thank you, Professor Singh. I will start the session. I'll start sharing my screen. Right. Just a heads up from the center people that my screen is visible.
Yes, Poorva, it is.
Yes, thank you. So before we start the session, I want to iterate that we are very happy to share with you all the thematic areas that our center does and believes in, and we hope that this session proves to be thought-provoking for all of you. And we are looking for active participation from all of your side. So yeah, discussion points for the session today. Let's just go briefly through those. As we all know that mankind has witnessed unprecedented growth in the recent years of the 21st century, and the planet is facing multiple challenges due to unsustainable practices by human beings, and we are definitely struggling to practice sustainable development. So in this background today, we will initially try to explain the nature of spirituality, which stands at the mystical core of various religions, and see for the interconnectedness of spirituality, mysticism, and consciousness, as consciousness here is our key word for today. We will also examine how the understanding of spirituality and consciousness can be applied in the fields of public policy. And then, advancing on these concepts, we will try to deliberate on the opportunities and challenges of applying spirituality to resolve public policy issues. So as I mentioned that this will be a deliberation process, and I would like that everybody should actively participate in the discussion. So before we move ahead with the main parts of the session, I want to start the discussion by asking all of you that what is spirituality according to you? Uh, Please feel free to unmute yourselves and jump in the discussion. I repeat the question that according to you, what is spirituality? You can tell your thoughts or opinions on that subject matter.
Hi, Poorva. This is Anand. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Professor. Spirituality, according to me, is it has different layers. At least I see it that way. The one is we understanding ourselves as an individual. So we talk about a lot about Atma and everything. So that is one thing, and where we improve ourselves as an individual from what we are today, inner being. And okay, I might have to use few words. Okay, I think this is a group which people can understand that, right? So what we are today and how where we are lacking and how do we improve it and improve ourselves, right? Say shedding the ego uh, or lessening the ego. We cannot be without ego, so that is another discussion by itself. But the thing is, spirituality on the whole is to understand oneself and what we are, and say, for example, what could be our purpose of the life, and how we can contribute to ourselves and also to the society. So it is all about that individual's improvement, say inside out, and the ways and methods and means of identifying those things, and trying to execute ourselves in a way that that is in tune with the nature or dharma, for example. So this is what I think is spirituality to myself.
Thank you so much for answering that and telling us your opinions on that. Anybody else who wants to come in on this question?
Yeah, hi Poorva. This is Parvez. Thanks. So basically, there are two things, central or other core at the spirituality. One is consciousness of the inner self, and also the outer, or rather external. So this is the critical aspect for spirituality. And obviously, I mean, there are other aspects to spirituality. What is the application based on the understanding or based on the consciousness? And then we try to seek it actually. Now, there can be ways and methods to achieve that. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you for adding to that. Um, any more answers to that question?
Yes, this is Sumalata. So following like what Anand and Parvez just said, like I just want to put like spirituality is like a union, like how it's a union that we feel ourselves with the natures or with cosmos or something. So we see like through spirituality, what we mean is that we see ourselves as an extension of what we are, like as an extension of the environment or extension of the space that we are living in, something like that. So spirituality generally means a union where we will not feel separated from the outside. We feel it everything as a part of ourselves. Now that's what I understand as what spirituality is. Thank you.
Thank you so much for adding to that. Any more answers to that part?
Hello everyone, this is Dinesh. I would like to comment on this. For me, I guess spirituality is something which is greater than ourselves. Maybe there is some power, or maybe we can say it as a religion, which is most of them believe that like God. If you believe on God, He is more than ourselves. Like I think there is something, the power which is beyond our existence, or something like that.
Right. Thanks for adding to that. And on that note, let's start our session today. So, first, let's see what the literature says on what is the nature of spirituality. So, spirituality is seen to be a belief in something beyond the self, as everybody pointed out. It comprises a sense of association that is bigger, that is something bigger than oneself. It may also encompass religious traditions that can be grounded in a higher power or an individual connection with the inner self, or maybe with the world at large. And recently, spirituality has come to be seen as a concept that has given room for many diverse outlooks. And just to go through a few of those, Christina Puchalski, an international leader who works at the intersection of spirituality and healthcare, defines spirituality as the aspect of humanity that seeks to know the deeper meaning, purpose, and the experiential essence of the connectivity to oneself, to nature, and to the sacred being. So, this description of spirituality demonstrates that spirituality is associated with large questions about one's existence and identity. It tends to explore the purpose of life by considering and asking questions to yourself or to the world, such as what is the meaning of an individual's existence or suffering, how human beings are supposed to serve the world around them, or questions such as what is the best practice to live a life, which is very complex to answer. Also, according to the authors of The Spiritual Brain, Mario and Denise, spirituality is an experience that can bring the experiencer in contact with the divine. And as this definition suggests, that this definition conditions the meaning of spirituality as it necessarily involves a link with a deity. And against the slight differences in the definitions that I mentioned, we can see the meaning of spirituality that is given by W.C. Roof. He states that spirituality encompasses four themes: a sense of mysticism and consciousness, along with a source of values and ultimate meaning and uh, purpose of life, a way of understanding, inner mindfulness, and personal integration. He articulates that spirituality is a universal human experience that cannot be separated from one's being. And his thoughts, to me, appear rational because spirituality is indeed an inherent part of our inmost soul and our activities. Uh, some people perceive spirituality as a religious experience that is associated with various places of worship. Some individuals see spirituality as a deeper sense of aliveness and interconnection. And this can be grasped by a relationship with the higher power, say a deity, connecting to nature or art, or exploring the purpose of life. However, throughout a person's life, spirituality can be an evolving concept which can take up different meanings based on the experiences of an individual. It can be in the form of questioning about subjects such as the existence of a person and its afterlife, or experiencing compassion for others, or the urge within a person to turn the world into a better place. Spirituality and mysticism are often seen to be notionally similar. However, these two concepts are not identical. Looking at the interconnections of mysticism, spirituality, and consciousness, mysticism can be regarded as a way to reach the inner dimensions of human life. And it provides the space where the person can achieve unity with the divine. However, spirituality is also associated with religious traditions, which is generally known as the conventional way, along with the growth of the inner self. It's a very broader concept. When we talk about spirituality, it's a very broader concept which attempts to understand the searching of an individual for conscience in a globalized world, a world where there is accelerated pollution and there's so much stress that has disrupted the harmony of many people around us. Traditionally, the concept of mysticism has been found in all the major religions, and therefore it could be said that at the core of all major religions lie mystical teachings. Various religions, we have seen that they contradict each other on numerous fronts. However, all religions agree on the idea that the ultimate reality emphasizes the experience of the deeper levels of life. Ultimate reality, when we talk about it, it's something that is the greatest, final, and central power in all reality. All the religions state that the ultimate reality cannot be apprehended merely by thought and has to be practiced as pure awareness and consciousness of the mind. Concentrating on the word consciousness again, a philosopher from Hungary, in his work on quantum consciousness, has argued that through the mystical and spiritual experiences, an individual opens for itself a wider and a more broader world. It can be congregated, and he also argues that through these experiences an individual's open itself an emotional system as well. And through these systems an individual opens itself to the next stage of life, what we say it as, where the process of unfolding of many answers of life happens. The spiritual experience with the mystical path can aid in creating a development path for self and the world. This can be done as an individual or with collective action. The mystic path can be a powerful tool to understand what lies within the betterment of all the citizens and the world at large. Moreover, through the mystical path and generation of pure consciousness, the world can be received by the people to become the change that they want to see in the world. Now, coming down to the focus of our session today, spirituality and public policy. One dimension of being a human is to have a vision about existential questions about our life, such as who we are, what is the purpose of our life, what do we truly have to care about. These existential questions can be regarded as the political dimensions of spirituality. Perhaps this is a place that is at the intersection of politics, policy issues, and spirituality, and is an experience that the majority of the world population is seeking. And that is the place where individuals look for possibilities to practice the power in their inner self for the world. The relationship between politics, power, and spirituality is complex and challenging, but nevertheless, it is important and rapidly evolving in the contemporary world. The gathered literature that is there at the intersection of policy and spirituality, it's quite limited, but this subject matter offers a lot of questions on policy issues, such as does spirituality has anything to do with human development? Does spirituality holds the answer for how much consumption by an individual is sustainable for the world, or how much consumption by an individual is required to live a good life? Also, questions such as does spirituality have anything to offer on policy issues such as health, climate change, or conflict? We live in the Anthropocene era where human actions have greatly impacted global ecosystems. And in spite of the SDGs and the other international agreements on climate change and sustainability, ensuring sustainable development seems a distant dream. Also, Alan, a CEO of a leading European solar infrastructure investment company, has often argued that the reason for the unsuccessfulness of the SDGs is the lack of public responsibility. He further claimed that unsuccessfulness of the SDGs can also be linked to the spirituality and the evolution of consciousness, since spirituality and consciousness are key to achieve the SDGs. The manifestation of these two arguments can stand true in elevating the citizen responsibility both at the individual level and at the community or the collective level. Sustainability, as we all know, is a concept that interrelates social, environmental, and economic concerns. It involves the need to attain a better balance between the three areas to ensure a better world for our future generations to survive. Also, in the present world, sustainability has become central in shaping initiatives of the government, corporations, non-profits or profit corporations towards social responsibility initiatives, mainly in the environmental protection and carbon mitigation efforts. However, in spite of the progression in adapting the concept of sustainability, actual tangible outcomes continue to fall short to achieve the objectives. Now, coming to some of the concrete examples. In view of this, the position of India in the SDG index can be considered. The SDG index measures the progress of implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals and targets across 165 nations. And India in SDG index 2021 stood at the 120th position, and its stand exhibited significant challenges for the policymakers in achieving the SDGs. Some of the challenges include governance issues, poor implementation of the programs to fit the local context, and political issues at the subnational levels. We can see that one possible explanation of this setback in sustainability can be our lack of sense of urgency. Humans need to realize that the challenges that we face today, such as overconsumption and climate change concerns, increasing social inequality and poverty, are one of the greatest challenges that humanity has ever faced. And to realize the impact of these crises and to work towards addressing the challenges, the evolution of consciousness is an absolute key. The evolution of all our individual and collective consciousness is central in making SDGs an absolute priority for individuals, organizations, and the governments. This would help in creating a mindful force, a force which is very conscious about the environment and the things around them, and this is very significant also to identify the means to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. Um, in the Indian context, bearing in mind the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which is known as the Clean India mission of the Indian government, the conceptual need of spirituality and consciousness within the people to support the government in achieving the policy objectives becomes very crucial. The Clean India mission is a step in the right direction to achieve SDG 6, that is clean water and sanitation, and SDG 13, that is climate action. It could be observed that spiritual development in individuals, in terms of taking care of their surroundings and being conscious of the environment and their impact, the human impact on the environment, greatly assisted in achieving the objectives of the Clean India mission in states like Indore in Madhya Pradesh. Likewise, the policy of the Indian government to put a nationwide lockdown in the first wave of COVID-19 that we saw in March 2020 had a favorable impact in controlling the COVID-19 cases. This favorable impact is can be partially attributed to the consciousness of the individuals towards their responsibility as citizens. Any mass level program that is mission oriented can be considered that it should have collective choices which can help in propagating collective actions at the community level. Further, if we look into more examples, policy challenges such as conflict resolution, we can say that it has a spiritual aspect. How so? Every challenge of conflict and making peace needs a reflection of the stakeholders on the meaning and purpose of the conflict. And in this background, it becomes significant for the stakeholders of the conflict to ask questions to themselves and others, such as what is the worth of the fight? What is the true opportunity here? What is the cost of the conflict? These questions have a spiritual dimension of life, which is central to the field of conflict resolution. This opens up prospects to have wisdom and delve into moving forward by making peace within the stakeholders and the situation itself. Now that we have covered the major portion of spirituality and public policy, let's look at some of the opportunities and challenges. Public policy, as we all know, is a tool to solve social problems arising due to coordination failures among the stakeholders. And to solve the coordination failures, collective action is required where people take responsible action. In the process of acting responsibly, something spiritual comes into being, and hence it can be stated that it is worth taking a positive perspective towards the subject matter of spirituality and public policy. The main challenge here is to expand the collective consciousness based on everyone's individual consciousness. And therefore, it becomes important to see what can drive individual consciousness of a person. As we all know, that consciousness is a very contextual concept. The evolution of consciousness depends on the thinking of our minds, and this is the reason why individuals need to regulate their thoughts and morals and have the power within to be present in their actions. And spirituality and consciousness have to be the core values to shape human life, so that responsibility as a society is taken, and responsibility in society for the most pressing issues can be taken as indicated for the impact that we require to attain the SDGs. The interconnectedness of spirituality and public policy has opened windows of opportunities to analyze the thoughts footprints of the individuals so that the path can be paved for a sustainable world. The policy challenges in the domain of poverty, health, education, environment cannot be addressed unless all the individuals address these challenges consciously and collectively. Now, coming to the spiritual capital part, we are all aware about what human capital means, but little do we know that spiritual capital has a substantial share in building human capital. Spiritual capital deals with the process of self inquiry. It entails experiential questions relating to empowerment, well being, health, emotions, educational beliefs, the carbon footprint of an individual, or the world as a whole. As if now, spiritual capital is not considered while interpreting human capital. Promoting the practice of yoga, meditation, and exploring spiritual texts in institutions and organizations can be of great value to build the spiritual capital of a society. It can help in inculcating responsible practices among human beings, and regardless to say, it can add in controlling undesirable societal practices such as corruption, conflict, and environmental encroachment. So on that note, I would like to share a video with all of you. I'll start sharing the video. Cheshta ma'am, if you can just give me an update, like a heads up if the sound's okay for the video.
Some call me nature.
The sound works fine?
Yes, yes, it is.
Thank you.
Others call me Mother Nature. I've been here for over 4.5 billion years, 22,500 times longer than you. I don't really need people, but people need me. Yes, your future depends on me. When I thrive, you thrive. When I falter, you falter. Or worse. But I've been here for eons. I have fed species greater than you, and I have starved species greater than you. My oceans, my soil, my flowing streams, my forests, they all can take you or leave you. How you choose to live each day, whether you regard or disregard me, doesn't really matter to me, one way or the other. Your actions will determine your fate, not mine. I am nature. I will go on. I am prepared to evolve. Are you?
So, according to me, that was one very powerful video that can actually try uh, being a person. So I'll just start sharing my presentation screen. Yeah. So to conclude, I would like to reiterate that responsibility is central to achieve sustainability in all the domains like environment, social issues, or business. Therefore, the linkage between spirituality and consciousness and responsibility needs to be acknowledged by each individual. If all the people imagined what could be created together through applying spirituality to public policy issues, it can be soon known that everything that an individual needs to make its contribution to the world is already within themselves. So, by conceding to the policy problems around us, we can release immense energy to elevate our consciousness and build a very sustainable world. So with that, I end my presentation and the floor is now open for discussion. We have three questions that, we would like everybody to unmute themselves and take part in the discussion actively. But before we head on to the discussion part, I would request Professor Singh to come in and speak in for a few minutes and maybe add to maybe if I've missed any of the points on that subject matter.
No, Poorva, I think that was a brilliant presentation. I think it was comprehensive and inclusive. You touched on all the key points, and I agree that that video that you showed was quite a powerful video as well. So I am also anxious to hear the conversation that will now unfold. So I think that was quite comprehensive. So I don't have any other points to add. You can go ahead with your discussion. Thanks.
Right. Thank you, Professor Singh. So we'll have a discussion part, and we have three questions there. So let's come to the first question. As we talked about spiritual capital as a part of human capital, I wanted to know the thoughts of all of you on seeing spiritual capital as a part of human capital. And do you think that this will lead into better personality development for humans and increase their role in practicing sustainable solutions? Please feel free to unmute yourselves anytime. In this part, active participation for all the participants, I think it will add a lot to our session today.
Yes, sure. I may like to share my thoughts. Yeah. First of all, thank you very much, Poorva, for an insightful presentation. So I have a couple of thoughts. So first is regarding the first question itself. In the presentation also, you made one point regarding human capital and spiritual capital. So you said that spiritual capital adds on kind of influences the human capital actually. So that's true. So I have another thought, that is it the other way around also? I mean, vice versa. Human capital adds on to the spiritual capital or not? So I'll just leave one question, or rather food for thought, in this background only. Is humanity or the humans at the center of spirituality? That's one thing. And there are one or two things also that I'll share later on, because you are going question by question, if I'm not wrong.
Right. So, right on that part, I think you gave us some food for thought to see that, if, as I said, that spiritual capital has a substantial share in building human capital. So, is it vice versa? So, I think one of the things that we tend to see at the center is the non-linearities in the things that we are surrounded by. So I will definitely say that it can be vice versa as well. It's not necessarily that spiritual capital like it's a linear path that spiritual capital will play a major role in human capital. It can be vice versa as well. I think both of these things are quite interconnected, and yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. Anybody else who wants to come in on this question itself?
Yes, hi, this is Anand. So the question, what are your thoughts on seeing spiritual capital as part of human capital. So there are a couple of assumptions there, right? So the assumptions here, when I see this question, so it says that human capital is a larger set, and the spiritual capital is a subset of it, or it's a part of it. I don't think so. So I would like to differ here. I think the spiritual capital is everything, and we are part of it. So spirituality is not only for humans; it's for everything. So at least with the things that I have read or understood about it, I would like to believe that spirituality is not just about the divinity and everything. It's about how the universe works, right? So if we equate that to spirituality, or how the universe works and how the earth works, or how the solar system works, whatever that is, however things work. So we are just a minute part of it. So I would like to differ in this. The question itself carries a bit of assumptions. I'd like to challenge that, I mean, in a good way, So I believe humans are part of the spirituality, not spirituality is part of humans. Of course, it is also there. So spirituality is a kind of encompassing, say it's an idea or a concept or whatever, or being or existence, however we call it. We can take different perspectives as we are different individuals, unique individuals as well. So again, okay, do I dismiss this question? No, but yes, it's a very important question that we have to ask. So the article that you shared with us, a couple of guys who wrote from Coimbatore, right? So there is someone who, there are a couple of points that someone has told that we have discriminated science and spirituality, right? Or we can kind of think that since the time of Renaissance in the 16th or 17th century, right? Science has been seen as the point of departure from spirituality, right? Or religion, so as to speak. So we think, okay, religion is a belief system, and science, people say that it is a system where we propose a hypothesis, test it, and prove it, right? So over a period of time, now we can see two sets of people. Since people who believe in religion or who has faith, and some people say, I believe in science, right? So people say, I believe in God or divinity or religion, and people say, I don't believe in that, but I believe in science. So the central part is belief, right? So that hasn't changed. I believe in something, you believe in something, but again, the belief system has stayed there. So it's no different, people who believe in science or believe in spirituality or religion. I think both are same. But somehow we have divided that, saying that science is a point of departure from spirituality. So which, again, answering to all the three questions or however that is. So I feel that spirituality is something that we are missing now because we think spirituality is waste of time. People think that, okay, we can be spiritual after the age of 60, after we retire from work or something. Right? So that is a general tendency that people take to it. So because of that, okay, for example, if you don't mind, can I take a minute longer or so? So people used to say that, there are, what is it called, superstitions, right? Superstition, okay, we should not be superstitious. We should be, no, we should approach everything in way of science, or no, we should have a scientific approach or something. I would not totally agree to that. Okay, now we are coming about the sustainability environment. So I have to bring this point in one way, saying that, say 50 or 100 years ago, we used to say that rivers are divine, lakes are divine, forests are divine. So we were talking about divinity in everything, right? Okay, do not say contaminate the rivers because rivers are divine, and do not contaminate the ponds or the lakes because they are divine. Water bodies are divine, forests are divine, mountains are divine, right? And say this mountain belongs to, say, Krishna, this mountain belongs to Rama, whatever that is, right? So when we had that divinity, attached divinity to the nature, people, whether they know or not, whether they were scientific or not, they were not touching it or contaminating, right? But once we departed from, say, that superstition, And then we started seeing everything from the science point of view, but I do not know whether we really saw that or not. But now, you see, mountains are gone, rivers are gone, lakes are dried up, no more ponds. So water bodies have diminished from the face of the earth, right? So I would say that bit of superstition is also spirituality to an extent that if we go and ask people to scientifically approach everything, the entire population of the world, including ourselves, cannot do that. But when it is being told in the form of stories, or in form of something like, even if the superstition, I'm perfectly fine with superstition, because it's helping us to keep the nature intact. So where is that? We have departed from spirituality or superstition even. We dismissed them as non-scientific or non-intellectual, but where have we landed? So these are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. So this is where I see lack of spirituality or departure from spirituality has led us in deterioration of the natural resources and everything. So this, I just wanted to make this point.
Thank you so much. I think you touched upon a little very, intricacy of the spiritual value. And as you correctly mentioned that, as humans, we tend to nurture our intrinsic spiritual values after probably we retire. And yes, I think we need to understand that, spirituality, of course, it's embedded within the humans, of course, at the world at large. However, through the affirmations and nurturing of the intrinsic and the infinite spiritual value is something that all the human beings need to realize right now.
Yeah,
So
because we are there already. We only have to open certain things, right? Yeah, we are
right,
not completely different from that. Yeah. That
right,
was my point of discussion.
right.
Thanks.
So thank you so much. So anybody else who wants to come on this question?
Yeah, may I go?
Yes, surely.
Yes. Actually, thank you for this opportunity for letting me in this discussion, and it was totally new for me. So, uh, let me introduce myself. My name is Vivek. I am based in Gadchiroli district, Maharashtra. So, as the question goes about the spiritual capital as being part of human capital, the first question, and I will also try to relate to the third question, the link between spirituality and public policy. In my opinion, the spirituality uh, is spirituality is what makes us more conscious and more aware about our surroundings, and that's what led to the policy making, considering the behavioral sciences and altering the behavior of the people. Like you mentioned one example of Swachh Bharat mission, where the policy makers have included some nudges in the designing and implementation, where it makes it more successful than any other previous policies. So what spirituality does is makes us more aware and helps us contribute to the personality development itself. The awareness brings the awareness brings the awareness brings the larger solutions or larger perspectives of anything that is on the table of the policymaker. For example, before the 21st century, no one was considering much on the climate change, and most of the policies were anthropocentric, and they are still there. People considering themselves as superior than any other species, and they are framing the policies for their benefit, for benefit of the people. And even the formation of state has been done as the contract between people and the state, and nothing else. They do not consider the territory as such, the plants, environment, anything else. But some policies, when some policy makers are considering spirituality, are becoming more aware about the sciences, about the nature, about the surroundings, then they are considering um, the nature as their own, and they are establishing the link between um, the surroundings and themselves, and blurring the limits, we are the people, we are superior and animals are not superior. So this part means some policies like Wildlife Protection Act or any other policies like Environmental Protection Act, but still there lies some basic limitations of putting animals forward instead of people. Like the displacement happens in tribal areas due to the Forest Right or Environmental Protection Acts. Those displacement are considered, or also Wildlife Protection Act, for the sake of preserving tiger under Project Tiger. The people are the policymakers or say lawmakers are displacing the people who are living there for the sake of animals. So there is a lot more to gain insight from spirituality and policy. But so yeah, that's all. So there is a lot more, and yeah, I would like to learn more from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for adding to that. I think your opinion and your thoughts gave a really good head start for me to ask the second question. Um, as you rightly mentioned that yeah, taking responsibility, it's the key right here. But acknowledging the acknowledgement by each and every individual of the problem around us, I think that can add and contribute a lot in how we see sustainability and how we can minutely contribute towards a sustainable world. So, right, coming to the second question, the question is that, how do you link spirituality, mysticism, consciousness, and your part in helping to attain environmental sustainability? And here we can discuss what can be some of the steps that can be consciously taken on an individual level, which will be environmentally friendly. So, to break the ice for this question, I'll start with two of the steps that I've tried to take as my bit to, uh, improve the world. So, first is basically I started using the steel straws rather than the plastic straws. I don't ask for one whenever if I'm entering a shop, if I'm entering into a hotel. I tend to I tend to incline more towards the steel straws that are there. And I think when I think that what will happen if all the people what will happen if all the people take these little steps, and what can be created together. Yeah, I think this is one to break the ice. If all the participants want to add in, chip in on this question, it will be great. I think these things are around us, and somehow consciously, unconsciously, we tend to do a few things which are which harm the environment. But taking responsibility and being aware of what we are doing, I think that's very important. So any steps that can be consciously taken on an individual level which comes across your minds, or any steps that you have taken recently, or yeah. So anybody who wants to come and just feel free to unmute yourself.
Yes, I like to answer the second question and also the second part of the first question. Then I'll speak about the steps that I have taken individually. So I was thinking there's a link between the second part of the first question and the second question as such. So do you think that there's a spiritual capital as a part of human capital will lead into a better personal development? There is both yes and no. First, I'll explain why it is no. Because the main reason for no is that spirituality is seen in a very narrower sense, more with a religious tone. As Anand has said, it is seen, at least in India, we can see like spirituality is associated with religion, and religion goes in with a lot of rituals. So what happens? There is a chance that it can be a chance for personality development. But what happened here? The rituals are just practiced without knowing the value of it, why we are practicing it. Just blindly they are practicing it. For example, people go to a river, they'll take a dip by thinking that it will purify them. and they will be washed off the shin, but they don't know like what damage they are causing to the river. They won't take the clothes back, they won't take the plastic covers that are they are carrying with them, and there will too much pollution they will be creating it. They don't understand it. Only when the river is healthy they will be healthy. This is the basic essence of the rituals and spirituality is not being explained to the masses. That is the main hindrance, I feel, and why it cannot lead to a personality development. At the same time, how can spirituality, mysticism, consciousness can attain environmental sustainability? Again, I'll take an example from India, sacred groves in Karnataka. There's a tribal in Kurg area who are practicing the sacred grooves. Not a single tree is cut from that groove, and they will not even pluck any fruits from the groove. The tribals value it as their mother nature, as a goddess who is protecting them. So no one is allowed to go inside the sacred groves. No one is allowed to pluck flowers. No one is allowed to damage even any branches of these trees. So what is the difference between the first example I have given, second example I have given? In the first example, where people are blindly following rituals, here the spirituality is taken in terms of individual self, the well-being of the individual only. Whereas in terms of collective groups these tribals are following, they are seeing spirituality as a collective self. So when they see it as a collective self, they have a sense of well-being for the whole society, for the whole community, for the whole environment. When we are seeing as an individual self, we care for only ourselves. Is my family good? Am I good? What am I benefiting when I do this? What am I getting from the nature? So this mindset has to be changed. So as of now, there is more of like very narrower view of spirituality. It can be enhanced for a collective self, and for this education seriously plays a role. We have to learn law. We feel that we study in a university at a global level or something, we feel that we are more educated. No, but the tribes living in very remote areas of India, they know more about nature, and they have more knowledge to share with us than we study in whatever SDGs, this, that, and everything. So I believe that we have to find the roots, and the education has to go back to the roots. That is very, very important. And one example that I personally practice in my life, as you say, is like even I tend to avoid plastic spoons and straws, and I carry my own water bottles. I also carry jute bags or cloth bags for shopping, and I make sure that my family members and my friends also do it. And just for fun, like a group of friends in a WhatsApp, we just say like no plastic week or something, and we will share like how many plastic bags we saved this week. We used to share, and we used to give a badge and prize for whoever is saving a lot of plastic bags. This is like a WhatsApp group for girls, our college friends we have created, and we are doing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Subulata, for adding to the discussion. I think you raised up to some really interesting points. I think Aditya has had his hand up from quite a few times. Aditya, please come in if.
Hi,
Yeah.
thank you for this discussion. It has been very fruitful. Actually, I want to add to what the previous speaker has said. So what I suggest is spiritual capital essentially should come under the broader ambit of history. Now, especially Indian history. So essentially, if we go back, I think, in my personal opinion, we had a lot of these things figured out where back in the day when we were uh, giving a very, sacrosanct notion to say rivers or to animals or to trees and everything else. And then we've been introduced to science, and we ourselves have created a hierarchy, and we have prioritized science over all the uh, knowledge and whatever we had of the past. So what I suggest, there needs to be essentially a method to preserve knowledge of the past and the mistakes of the past. Now, why I say this is important is because let's say today we are not looking back to solve uh, the problem of climate change. We are not looking back at all. We've somehow, let's say, figure out ways, and we are able to preserve the earth for now. What happens 100 years down the line? Are these guys not, if we just forget the mistakes and the knowledge of the past, it's going to be a loop. We're going to, because the human greed again is going to come up and everything. So what I suggest, something very important that we need to understand is to have something like a mechanism to preserve these knowledge and mistakes. That's what I wanted to say. And yeah, I also try to go with my friends somewhere. I don't take I don't, I like to carpool and everything. I try to take jute bags and everything like all of yours. There are many steps that I take as well. And I think these small things also contribute a lot. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aditya, for adding to that. I think, yes, preserving all the past mistakes that we have done and learning from them. I think that's one very important point to note down from this session itself. So, thank you. Thank you so much. Right, coming to the third question. The third question is like, can we think of any ideas or recommendations that have been in practice or can come in
Poorva,
practice?
I see Parveez had the hand up.
Right. Yes, Parvez, please feel free to unmute yourself and add in. Yeah.
Yes, sure. Thank you. Thanks, Professor. And thank you, Purva. So I have two comments. Actually, these relate to your second and third questions. So one is application of spirituality in public policy or in general, let's say. So when we talk talk with the stakeholders. So this is I'm sharing my perspective from my profession only. So I work in clean energy and policy domain only. So what happens? Let's say whenever we speak to stakeholders, regarding adoption of sustainability as a matter of practice. So I'll give you one example. Let's say, in clean energy only. So let's say solar, electric vehicles or so, whenever we talk and, present our pitch to any person, let's say, even in, rural area, in villages or so. So they ask only one question: what's in it for me? Right? No, they say that no, these things, climate change, sustainability, that's fine, but how does that affect or how does that matter to us? So that's the question. So in that background, I would like to say one thing. You see, in actually management or organizational management, there is a concept called no need hierarchy. So there is a person called Maslow. So it's the model called Maslow's needs hierarchy. So what happens to it is linked with linking it with spirituality and its application actually in policy or other fields, let's say. So you see, it says that there is a hierarchy of needs from a person's perspective. So first level of needs are like, let's say basic physical needs, social needs, self-esteem. And when we talk about higher level of needs, it's like self-esteem, or there is a term called self-actualization. So there, the self-actualization is more related to the concepts of spirituality and all that, right? So unless until the lower levels of needs of people are not fulfilled, they are not motivated to take up to the higher levels. So that's the challenge I think we all face while interacting with the stakeholders. This is one thing. Obviously, there are ways, sustainable or sustainability. There are theories, there are models we can work out. But one major concern will always be that how to address the basic needs of people. Unless until that is not addressed, I'm not sure that whether we'll be able to successfully implicate or inculcate these models in practice. That is one thing. Another comment is regarding sustainability itself. You see, governments, any institution, academicians, we talk that, okay, sustainability, or you see, it is the way, right? Let's say I'll just give you one example. It's, even India or other countries, they are propagating for clean energy, right? Okay, adopt solar, adopt electric vehicles, fine. But is it the solution? That's the question, right? So here there is a concept called overconsumption. Now what is happening? We have to make our consumption sustainable. Unless this is not addressed, I don't think that no shifting to clean energy or solar will make the sense. Okay, India says that okay, by 2030 we will achieve 500 gigawatt of solar, clean energy, renewables, right? But will that make the our let's say planet Earth sustainable? That's a question. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Right. I think, thank you, Parvez, for adding to that. And I think on the first part that you mentioned, right, that people ask that what it is, like what it is, it has to offer to us, right? So this reminds me of a case study that I read a while ago, a year back, I think. There was a program that was that was happening in the state of Chhattisgarh, where there's a village named as Kotka in Chhattisgarh. So the government of Chhattisgarh thought that they have immense potential to have the solar park here, and to give an impetus to the solar energy uptake in this area of Kotka. So I think this question was raised at that time, that point itself. I'm forgetting the name of the minister though. Uh, whose article I was reading. But what they did was, first and foremost, they tried to generate the awareness among the people of Kotka that what solar energy is. And then they tried to absorb the people in the in the green jobs there. So I think with one thing, like giving an impetus to the solar parks and to solar energy, they provided an impetus to the green jobs there as well. So I think an incentive is something that we all humans need, and one of the main aim of the center is to look at those intricacies and how the things can interconnect when we are designing programs and implementing them. So yes, thank you so much for sharing. And I think on that note, I'll try to wrap up some of the points that have that have been highlighted. So
Purva, before you do, maybe I just wanted to add a quick word, if I might. So just a quick comment on some of the questions that were raised. On the issue of spiritual and human capital, I think we can easily agree that spirituality goes way beyond human beings. It's just that human beings might, with a more developed consciousness, might be more aware, but I think that's clear. However, because we want to consider how to influence public policy, and because human capital has been in the public policy domain for a long time, we link the spiritual capital to language that the policymakers can relate to. So that is why we make that very pragmatic reason that we link spiritual capital to the human capital for public policy purposes. See, but we also take the theoretical construct. We have IQ, which is intelligence quotient, which we know, which has been related to human capital. We take EQ, which is emotional intelligence, and that's linked to social capital. And then we take SQ, which is spiritual capital, linked to spiritual intelligence, which we will discuss at 2:30 when we are launching this book on the politics of being. And then we begin to look at the capitals approach, not only the flows in society, but also the stocks. And policymakers can relate to that. So that's one point I just wanted to elaborate on. The other point is an interesting one on the divide between science and religion. See, science and religion historically have had this schism. They have been split. But what science? It is Newtonian science that has created this issue. But when we look at the more recent sciences of quantum physics and complexity science, and look at spirituality, not religion, then there is no conflict. Then the two converge very well. And that is what is so reassuring for our work. And then Western science and Eastern mysticism and spirituality work well together. And that's what we are using to advance our work. I just wanted to mention those two, and back to you, Poorva. But great session, I believe now, but wonderful session.
thank you,
Thank you.
Professor. I would request anybody for any last comments before we summarize and end the session for today. Any last comments?
Yeah,
Yes.
Prof, thank you so much for explaining, and that was very interesting point from you. Okay, again, when we talk about spirituality, I just wanted to make one point which I forgot when I did it in the beginning. Spirituality will help us to identify what our wants and what our needs are. So that discrimination has blurred much right now. So what we want is what we think we need. So needs can and should be fulfilled. Wants need not be fulfilled all the time. In that case, when we say reduce, I might have to use the word here reduce, but it might not be politically correct, but that's okay. Reduce the wants and we just keep it to our needs. I think that will make us sustainable even without knowing that we are sustainable. So wants are taking much precedence than our needs right now. So this discrimination, when the understanding of this, I think probably spirituality can help us understanding this, so that we don't overconsume, don't overbuy, and buy things and waste. The overconsumption is not just we consume everything. Actually, we waste a lot of things. Uh, Consumption normally is looked at the point of sale, right? So how many people are buying what? So that's why they say, okay, some people buy it and then it is considered as consumed, right? But it's not so. We buy food, we waste it. We buy clothes, we waste it. We buy lots of things and we use only say a fraction of it, and then we don't use much of it. So there is an interlink between spirituality, economics, and there is also a new concept that is coming up. It's called minimalism. People try to reuse and they don't buy new things. It's a very, very small group that exists in the world. I'm kind of part of it, but yeah. So trying to be minimal so we can reduce much of stress, much of burden economically and mind-wise and everything. So yeah, I think spirituality encompasses everything, and it would greatly help in people understanding or discriminating between needs and wants. So that way, spirituality can help us in a really big way. That's the last point.
Yes,
Thanks.
thank you so much for ending on that note. I think what I could take, and I'm sure that everybody has taken from this, is that we have to move from an like we have to give an impetus to the individual as well as to the collective, self, and to the collective actions, and we need to do whatever it's possible at the individual level. And I think at every point of the spectrum of our life and thinking, there could be a continuing spirit of inquiry that's needed, and that can be informed by our reflexive intelligence. And when it comes to policy, I think it's all about value and impact, and the term spiritual is an attempt to value something that we already have within ourselves. And I'm sure that everyone agrees with me on this, that thinking like this is itself very spiritual and can inform policy practice. So, and on that note, before we end, I would like to inform everyone about an event that is scheduled for today from 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. CESP is having a book launch. The book is named, as Professor Singh also mentioned, Politics of Being, Wisdom and Science for a New Development Paradigm. This book is by Thomas Legrand. This book aims to connect our institutions with our fundamental cause for existing on this planet, and to become the best and the most complete version of ourselves. The author in this book articulates how politics and policies may assist human flourishing and the collective shift in awareness that our contemporary difficulties and the problems that we are facing require. We will all be very thrilled if all of you could join us for the book launch, as it will be great to take the discussion and thoughts forward that we have gathered in this session on applied spirituality and public policy. So we look forward to having you on board with us for the launch. And thank you for joining us and being such a great cohort of participation. So thank you so much and have a good day, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Professor Singh, for joining. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Great session. Thank you.
Thank you.